The Principle of Divine Order. Introduction. There are rare souls who, in the silence between two worlds, perceive a hidden order moving behind all things. Among them was a quiet English mystic named Henry Thomas Hamblin, born in the small seaside town of Walberton, Sussex in 1873, at the threshold of an age that worshipped machinery more than spirit. He was no preacher of dogma, no builder of temples of stone. He was an ordinary man who lived an extraordinary inward life, a man who worked among the engines of a new industrial world, yet whose heart heard the music of a higher one. After a near-death experience and years of struggle, Hamblin withdrew from the noise of London and began to write simple monthly letters he called the Science of Thought Review. Through these letters, and through books like Divine Adjustment, he quietly influenced tens of thousands across the world, seekers who longed to reconcile spiritual law with daily living. His words carried no threat, no creed, only this revelation: there is an ever-present principle of perfection which, when cooperated with, brings our life into order. In the disillusioned decades after the Great War, when Europe had seen what happens when humanity forgets its soul, Hamblin became a messenger of interior harmony. He spoke not from pulpits, but from silence, reminding men and women that peace is not given by the world, it is recovered from within. He called this inner alignment divine adjustment, the mysterious process by which every life, no matter how broken or confused, can be brought into correspondence with the hidden rhythm of God. It was the same wisdom known to the ancient mystics, spoken by the Gnostics as the law of correspondence, by the Taoists as Wu Wei, and by Christ himself when he said, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." To Hamblin this was no abstraction. He insisted that divine order is not far away. It breathes in the pulse of every heart, it moves through every circumstance, and it waits patiently for our consent. When the human will ceases its resistance and learns to move with the current of infinite love, all discord dissolves into harmony. The universe itself becomes friendly. And so, in this work, we do not study theology, we study alignment. We learn how to enter the stream of blessedness, that invisible river of providence that flows beneath the surface of every life. We learn that suffering is not punishment, but mistuning, and that the moment we attune our thoughts, words, and emotions to the divine law, peace returns, as surely as dawn follows night. You do not have to make the river flow, Hamblin wrote. You only have to stop resisting it. This audiobook is a journey into that river, not through intellect but through realization. Each chapter is a step into deeper alignment with the current that knows the way. By the end, you will no longer ask life to change for you. You will have changed for life, and life, obedient to the divine within, will adjust itself to your new vibration. Pause. Now close your eyes. Let the noise of the world fall away. There is a rhythm beneath your breath, a quiet pulse of order beneath the confusion. Enter it. Listen. This is divine adjustment. Chapter 1. The Stream of Blessedness. There is a river that has no source and no end, a living current flowing through all things. It moves beneath the clamor of cities, beneath the noise of ambition and despair. It carries the rhythm of stars and the pulse of the human heart. This is the stream of blessedness, the secret current of divine order, the hidden circulation of God through creation. Every soul is born from this stream. Every joy we have ever known has risen from its depths, and yet most of humanity walks apart from it, struggling against the very flow that could carry them home. We are taught to believe in chance, in luck, in the random cruelty of events. We have forgotten that behind every atom stands intelligence, and that intelligence is love. The world, when seen through the eyes of separation, appears chaotic, but through the eyes of spirit, everything moves in exquisite harmony, each moment arriving in perfect time, each circumstance serving a divine design. When a man resists this order, life becomes friction. He works, but his labor brings only exhaustion. He prays, but his prayer is made of fear, not faith. He believes in a distant God who does not intervene, and so his life becomes a mirror of that belief. But the law is simple: as within, so without. What is not contained in the mind cannot appear in life. If we exclude faith, we inherit fear. If we exclude divine harmony, we live by accident. If we exclude the idea of a friendly universe, we are condemned to live in one that seems hostile. The first act of awakening is to believe, not as an opinion but as a living certainty, that life is friendly, that there is an infinite wisdom governing all, a love that desires only good. When this belief takes root, a shift occurs. The current that once opposed us begins to carry us. The wise have always known this. They called it the Tao, the great stream, the river of life. To flow with it is heaven. To fight against it is hell. Every discord, every failure, every sickness is a signal that we have turned against the current. But this river never ceases. It never condemns, it only waits. And the moment we surrender to its rhythm, the world adjusts itself around us. What seemed like disorder reveals itself as divine timing. What seemed like loss becomes liberation. What seemed like punishment becomes purification. The stream does not demand effort. It asks for alignment. Not resistance, but receptivity. Not striving, but surrender. To enter the stream of blessedness, begin where you are. Look upon your life and every fear, every delay, every loss, and say quietly, "Nothing is against me. Everything is teaching me to move with the current that knows the way." Then be still. Beneath the chatter of the mind you will hear it, a hum, a vibration, a living presence. That is the stream calling you home. Do not push, do not analyze. Just listen and let go. For once you surrender, life begins to work with you. Events arrange themselves in perfect symmetry. Help appears at the right moment. The right person arrives, the right door opens, and you realize, the river was always flowing. You were the one holding the bank. From this moment on, remember, you do not need to force your blessings, you only need to become available to them. You are not required to make the river flow. You are only asked to stop resisting it. Chapter 2. The Temptation to Fear. Fear is the oldest shadow cast by the human heart. It was born the moment man looked away from the light and imagined himself alone. Every age has given it new names: anxiety, danger, uncertainty, but its essence never changes. Fear is not a condition of the world. It is a vibration of separation. It whispers, "You are not safe. You are not guided. You are not loved." And in that whisper, the soul forgets its power. But listen carefully, fear is not real. It has no existence apart from the attention we lend it. It is the ghost of forgotten faith, an echo that lingers only as long as we believe in it. Fear is suggestion, the suggestion that there exists a power apart from the infinite. It is the subtle temptation that says, there is something beyond God, and it can harm you. All spiritual growth begins with the rejection of that lie. For no man can enter the stream of blessedness while bowing before the idol of fear. When you feel fear rising within you, that tightening in your heart, that trembling thought of loss, do not run. Do not bury it beneath distraction or denial. Do not call entertainment peace. To flee from fear is to give it power. To face it in truth is to dissolve it forever. Meet fear as a master meets a child. Look it in the eyes and say, "You have no power over me, for I live and move and have my being in God." The moment you do, the illusion begins to fade. You will sense it, that fear was never something real attacking you from without, but a shadow projected from within, born of misbelief. The world tells you to not worry, to push fear away by distraction, to drown it in noise. But when the laughter fades and the lights go out, fear returns, stronger than before, because it was never healed, only hidden. True overcoming does not come from escape, it comes from understanding. And understanding begins when we realize that the cause of fear is not the event we dread. It is the belief that we are separate from the source of power. Every fear is a confession of separation. Every act of faith is a reunion. There are only two states of being, to live in fear or to live in God. Fear is the foundation of every form of disease, the root of every failure, the silent architect of human misery. It builds its cities in the imagination and fills them with phantoms. Yet the walls of these cities crumble at the lightest touch of truth. For truth says, all life is spiritual, all power is divine, all events are under the government of infinite love. To fear is to worship disorder. To have faith is to remember order. When the mind dwells upon evil, it becomes a magnet for it. When it abides in trust, it becomes transparent to the good that forever seeks to manifest. You cannot fear and have faith in the same breath. The breath that sighs with fear cannot at the same moment speak the word of power. Therefore, when fear appears, do not shrink, do not curse it, but see in it a sacred call. A reminder that you have stepped momentarily out of the light, and the light is asking you to return. Imagine a storm raging at sea. Waves crash against the sides of a small vessel, and the sailor trembles, thinking the ocean seeks his death. But the storm does not hate him. It obeys the same law that governs the stars. If he aligns his sails with the wind, it will carry him to shore. If he resists, it will destroy him. So it is with fear. It becomes a teacher when faced with truth, a tormentor when resisted. There is an art, the art of transmutation. Whatever you face, meet it with a greater vibration. If fear comes, answer it with love. If anxiety stirs, answer it with stillness. If despair speaks, answer it with the remembrance, I am in God, and God is in me. Each time you do this, a subtle transformation occurs. The energy once chained to fear is released as power. Your nervous trembling becomes spiritual strength. Your uncertainty becomes inner vision. And your fear becomes the very bridge through which you enter divine courage. To be fearless does not mean to be reckless or proud. It means to be anchored in reality. When you stand in truth, you can walk through fire and remain unharmed. When Daniel stood in the lion's den, he did not plead, he did not fight. He simply knew, and knowing dissolved the threat. The same law applies to you. When you know that the divine presence fills all space, no harm can touch you, for there is no space left for harm to exist. In the universe of faith, lions lie down as lambs. Practice this in the smallest moments. When fear whispers of illness, affirm health. When it warns of lack, affirm abundance. When it speaks of loss, affirm eternal supply. Do not fight the thought, transform it. The battle is not against darkness, but for remembrance of the light. Say quietly to yourself, I am the child of an infinite life. The power that sustains galaxies sustains me. I rest in that power and I am safe. Let this not be mere words but vibration. Speak it until your heartbeat slows, until your breath deepens, until your entire being begins to hum with certainty. You will feel it, the shift. The moment when fear releases its hold, and you are carried again by the current of peace. Fear may visit again, for as long as we dwell in the world of appearances, it will knock upon the door. But every time you meet it with faith, its voice grows weaker, until one day it vanishes entirely. Not because you conquered it, but because you transcended the belief that it ever existed. The wise do not seek to avoid life's experiences. They meet them with cooperation and serenity, knowing that behind every seeming crisis, it is an opportunity to prove the power of divine presence. When you can say, in the face of any circumstance, this too is God, revealing himself through change, you have mastered fear. The soul that has overcome fear stands unshaken amid storms. It no longer prays for safety, for it lives in safety. It no longer prays for peace, for it is peace. And in that peace the infinite begins to act. Everything adjusts itself to the rhythm of your trust. Fear was only the veil. Beyond it, only love. Now that you have faced the shadow, you are ready to see what moves behind it. The living providence of the divine that governs every step. Chapter 3. The Law of Divine Providence. Providence. A word once whispered in temples and monasteries, spoken by mystics who saw a hidden hand moving through the patterns of life. To the mind of the world, providence is accident, fortune, coincidence. But to the awakened heart, Providence is the divine choreography of existence, the invisible intelligence guiding all things toward their appointed good. Nothing in this universe is random. Nothing occurs without meaning. Every circumstance, and from the trembling of a leaf to the birth of a star, is a note in the grand music of divine order. Yet humanity, forgetting this law, walks in confusion. It believes that life must be controlled, manipulated, and forced, and in that belief it exhausts itself. The mind struggles to design what infinite wisdom has already designed. We build plans, fears, and expectations, and when life does not obey them, we cry out that fate is cruel. But Providence does not oppose us, it corrects us. It guides us away from narrow desires into wider paths of blessing. Think of the seed that falls into the ground. It does not choose the rain or calculate the sunlight. It simply yields. And the same law that governs galaxies governs its unfolding. The seed is not anxious. It knows the soil contains all that it needs, so it allows the higher wisdom of the earth to guide its becoming. That surrender is its strength, and so it is with the soul. There is a plan hidden within you, not a fixed destiny, but a living pattern of divine intention. You were designed by wisdom itself. Every experience you meet, even those you call mistakes, it is the soil through which that pattern unfolds. When things fall apart, it is often Providence removing what no longer serves your growth. When doors close, it is Providence protecting you from paths that would delay your awakening. When pain arises, it is Providence calling you to remember the law you once ignored. There is no chaos, only correction. There is no punishment, only education. There is no chance, only timing too subtle for the mind to perceive. The mind demands control, but the spirit seeks cooperation. To live in alignment with divine providence is to exchange anxiety for trust, resistance for receptivity. It is to say, in the midst of uncertainty, I do not need to know, I only need to trust. When you speak these words with sincerity, you shift from the lower law of effort to the higher law of flow. Then, without struggle, you begin to notice a quiet rhythm moving through your days. People appear at the perfect moment. Resources come as if summoned by unseen hands. You realize that Providence was not something distant. It was the very intelligence breathing through your own consciousness. There is a sacred paradox. Those who trust Providence most completely often appear to the world as serene and effortless, yet their lives produce miracles. Their power is in their stillness. Their confidence is not born of control, but of cooperation. They do not pray for the wind to stop. They adjust their sails. They do not demand that the path be smooth. They ask only for light to see the next step. The saints and mystics of every age understood this. They lived by an inner law, unseen but unfailing, and because of it, they dwelt in peace amid turmoil. You too can live by this law. The same providence that guided the prophets, the same wisdom that shaped the stars is active in your own affairs. Your life is not separate from the infinite. It is the infinite expressing through the form of your experience. But how do we cooperate with Providence? We begin with trust. Trust so complete that it silences the mind's rebellion. Then gratitude. Gratitude aligns the heart with abundance. And finally, surrender. For surrender is the language by which the soul says yes to divine order. Each time you release your grasp upon control, Providence takes the wheel. Each time you choose faith over worry, Providence arranges what your effort could not. The pattern of your life, once tangled, begins to unwind. Harmony reappears. Events that once felt meaningless begin to reveal purpose, and you understand that nothing was ever wasted. Even the detours were designed. Even the mistakes were mercy in disguise. For Providence is patient. It allows us to wander until our hearts are ready to remember. Imagine for a moment that all the forces of the universe are conspiring for your good. Imagine that every delay conceals timing more perfect than your desire. Imagine that what you call failure is simply the hand of love reshaping your destiny. Hold that vision. Feel it. Let it sink deeper than belief. Let it become knowing. Then speak softly to yourself. Infinite intelligence guides me in all ways. I am never lost, never forgotten, never alone. Every step I take is directed by the law of divine providence. Pause after those words. You will feel a warmth, a stillness, like sunlight behind closed eyes. That is providence revealing itself through sensation. Do not dismiss it as imagination. It is communication. When you live by this awareness, the world becomes sacred again. Each encounter is a message. Each obstacle is an initiation. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? And life, delighted by your listening, begins to whisper its secrets. There is a reason you are here now listening to these words. It is providence reminding you that nothing in your life has been in vain. Every pain was preparation, every silence was an instruction, every ending was the seed of a beginning not yet seen. So release your need to control. Trust the current that knows the way. You do not walk through chaos, you walk through choreography. Every motion is measured, every step is guided. Your life is not falling apart, it is falling into order. Now let us travel deeper, for surrender is not the end of providence, it is its doorway. And beyond that doorway lies the most sacred act of all, the art of surrender. Chapter 4. The Art of Surrender. Soft strings fade in, the tone is intimate, still almost sacred. The teacher speaks slowly as if each word is being released with reverence. To walk in divine order, one must eventually learn the greatest of all arts, the art of surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of wisdom. Not the collapse of the will, but the alignment of it. For surrender, in the language of spirit, does not mean to give up. It means to give over, to place the small self into the hands of the greater self and say, use me, guide me, make of me what you will. This act is not easy for the mind, because the mind believes it must control in order to survive. It fears the unknown and clings to its illusions of mastery. But providence waits beyond that fear, whispering, let go, and you will see that life carries you more perfectly than you could ever carry yourself. The soul that has not yet learned surrender tries to shape the future by force. It prays to bend divine law instead of living in harmony with it. It makes demands upon the infinite as if the Creator were a servant to human wishes. But the wise know that the highest prayer is not give me, but thy will be done. When those words are spoken from the depths of the heart, something miraculous begins to happen. The tension in the body releases. The restless current of thought slows. And beneath that silence one feels a presence, gentle, vast, intelligent, moving the pieces of life with precision beyond imagination. Surrender is the point where striving ends and cooperation begins. It is the art of letting the infinite think through you, act through you, and live through you. You no longer fight to manifest your own idea of good. You allow the divine idea to manifest itself through you. The mystics have always taught this secret. When you stop asking the universe to obey you, the universe begins to serve you in ways beyond reason, because at that moment you and the universe are no longer two. You are the same consciousness, flowing as one motion. There are two stages of spiritual attainment. The first is mastery, when man learns the laws of faith and can command circumstances through belief. But the second, the higher, is surrender, when man no longer seeks to command but to become transparent to God. In mastery, the self still says, I can. In surrender, the self whispers, He through me. And it is here that divine adjustment becomes effortless. Events begin to arrange themselves without the strain of will. You will notice that what once required planning now happens naturally. Opportunities flow toward you as if drawn by unseen magnetism. The right words, the right encounters, the right ideas, they arise spontaneously, for the guiding intelligence of life has taken charge. But do not mistake surrender for passivity. It is not the abandonment of action. It is inspired action. The surrendered soul still works, but its work is charged with peace instead of tension. It still chooses, but its choices are guided by intuition instead of fear. It still dreams, but its dreams are rooted in divine vision rather than personal desire. To surrender is to live without anxiety, to walk through uncertainty with the calm of one who knows that the road beneath their feet is drawn by unseen hands. Imagine your life as a small boat on a vast and radiant river. You have spent years rowing against the current, exhausting yourself in the attempt to control its flow. Now, in surrender, you drop the oars. For the first time, the river itself begins to move you. The direction is no longer yours, and yet it is perfect. You find yourself arriving exactly where you are meant to be, not by effort, but by trust. This is the state the saints called peace that passes understanding. It is not the stillness of inactivity, it is the stillness of complete cooperation. The mind rests in divine rhythm, the heart beats in time with the infinite, and every breath becomes an act of worship. But how do we practice surrender? It begins with a single act of remembrance, the recognition that you are not the doer, you are the instrument. The music of God plays through you, and the melody cannot be forced by the flute. Each morning, before you act, pause and say, "Infinite wisdom, act through me today. Let my thoughts be your thoughts, my words be your words, my will be aligned with your will." Then move into your day without anxiety. Do what lies before you with love, and leave the result in higher hands. For surrender does not mean neglect, it means non-attachment. You give your best, and then you release the outcome. When storms arise, and life appears to contradict your trust, remember that surrender is not proven in calm waters. It is forged in the tempest. The river will at times seem violent, but its current still flows toward the sea. When the winds of life howl and the waves threaten to overturn you, repeat within, "Even this is God in motion. Even this will carry me home." And the fear that once ruled you will dissolve in reverence. There will come a moment when you feel completely emptied, when the self you built with pride, fear, and desire begins to dissolve. This is not death but birth. The shell must crack before the light can pour out. Do not resist this moment. It is sacred. For only the empty cup can be filled with the wine of the Spirit. If you surrender fully, you will discover a joy that no circumstance can give or take away. You will feel carried, literally lifted, by a presence that moves in silence and yet commands all life. Then you will know the secret that saints have whispered for centuries. When I stopped grasping, I was lifted. When I stopped fighting, I was free. When I surrendered, I discovered that the one I feared to trust had been my own self all along. Surrender is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of the soul, for the universe can only guide what does not resist. Let go. Trust the current that knows the way. Allow infinite wisdom to take the lead, and life will begin to unfold with the precision of divine geometry. Now that you have yielded to the flow, the Spirit will show you another secret, that surrender never erases the self. It perfects it. Chapter 5. Individuality and Strength. There is a truth that few understand. To surrender to God does not mean to lose yourself. It means to find the self that cannot be lost. In the world of men, surrender is seen as weakness. But in the world of spirit, surrender awakens strength. For when the lower will yields to the higher, the infinite begins to act through the finite, and what was once limited becomes limitless. You are not called to dissolve into nothingness. You are called to reveal the divine individuality that sleeps within you, the spark of God wearing your name. The infinite does not repeat itself. It expresses through you in a way it has never expressed before. There is no other being in all creation. Who can reflect this particular ray of the divine light? That is why imitation is bondage, comparison is blindness, and submission to the opinions of others is the slow death of the soul. The moment you begin to live by imitation, you step out of the stream of blessedness and into the stagnant pools of conformity. You forget that your true guide is not outside you, but within. The still voice of the Spirit, the gentle intelligence that knows what you are here to express. Every soul is a law unto itself, not in rebellion, but in rhythm. You are a note in the divine symphony. And harmony comes not from sameness, but from perfect correspondence. To deny your individuality is to silence your note in the cosmic song, but to assert it apart from God is discord. The wise neither boast nor shrink, they express. Their strength is humility in motion. Their individuality is divine alignment embodied. There are two errors on the spiritual path. The first is arrogance, the belief that the self is the center of power. The second is submission to external influence, the belief that others know your path better than the spirit within. Both lead to bondage. In arrogance, you become your own tyrant. In submission, you become another's slave. But when you are receptive only to the divine, you walk in freedom. No human authority can dictate the will of God in your soul. No psychic voice, no charismatic teacher, no spiritual glamour can command the one who listens inwardly. The inner kingdom has one ruler, the Spirit of Truth. To that alone you bow. People will misunderstand this freedom. They will call it pride, but it is the highest humility, for it honors the divine presence as the only true authority. When you stand in that presence, you no longer need approval, you no longer seek validation, you no longer fear rejection. The opinions of men become as passing shadows. You act not from rebellion, but from realization. You do not fight to be different, you simply are. And in that authenticity, you find peace. Many who walk the spiritual path confuse love with weakness. They think that to love is to yield their energy, to absorb the burdens of others until their own light fades. But true love strengthens. It never depletes. Love is not submission, it is radiation. It does not bend beneath darkness, it illumines it. It does not absorb pain, it transforms it. The one who loves rightly gives, but never loses themselves in the giving. To love another does not mean to sacrifice your inner authority. It means to see the divine in them and to call it forth through your own integrity. The love that compromises truth is not love, it is sentiment. But the love that stands firm in truth is divine power, clothed in gentleness. Let your soul stand upright. Let your heart remain soft. Let your words carry peace, but let them be spoken from strength. You are not here to please the world. You are here to express heaven. Do not bend to every wind of opinion. Do not allow guilt to chain your wings. Do not confuse passivity with holiness. To be meek is not to be weak. It is to possess power under perfect control. It is to be a sword of light sheathed in mercy. The Master once said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And what is the meekness he spoke of? Not timidity, but mastery. The meek have surrendered their pride, but not their purpose. They bow to God, not to man. And because of that, creation itself bows before them. When you stand rooted in divine individuality, your presence becomes a sanctuary. You will notice that people calm in your company. Animals trust you. Children are drawn to you. Those who cross your path sense peace, though they cannot tell from where it comes. This is the silent authority of spirit. Strength without force, light without words. You become a center of blessing, not because you control people, but because you control yourself. You no longer react, you radiate. You no longer defend, you emanate. Your energy becomes clear, coherent, untouchable. Practice this inner sovereignty in every situation. When turbulence meets you, let your silence be the answer. When faced with confusion, remain centered. When tempted to yield your peace to external demand, remember, I am governed only by the law of my inner light. I live in the presence, and the presence lives in me. Repeat it until your nervous system relaxes. Breathe it until your thoughts slow down. Then act calmly, clearly, decisively. Let every choice arise from inner alignment, not from outer pressure. In time, you will discover that your individuality is not a mask separating you from God, but the unique window through which the infinite shines. When you express that light purely, you fulfill your divine reason for being. You are not small. You are not fragile. You are not an echo of others' voices. You are a living ray of the eternal sun. And when you stand in that knowing, you become a pillar of divine strength upon the earth. Your humility becomes power. Your silence becomes command. Your individuality becomes the living proof that God does not repeat himself. He reveals himself anew through every awakened soul. Now that you have remembered your divine sovereignty, you are ready for the next revelation, the creative power of your word. Chapter 6. The Power of the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is not poetry. It is the oldest metaphysical law in the universe. It means that sound, vibration, is the substance of creation. Before any form appeared, before the galaxies spun, before matter was born, there was the Word, a pure command of consciousness that spoke light into being. You are not separate from that power. The same divine principle that spoke worlds into existence moves through your thoughts and speaks through your tongue. Every word you utter is a creative decree. Every thought is a seed cast into the soil of the invisible. And as surely as spring follows winter, those seeds must grow. This is why the wise guard their words as sacred fire. They know that language is energy clothed in sound. To speak is to shape reality. The careless speak from reaction. The awakened speak from realization. Most people believe they are describing the world, but in truth they are creating it, moment by moment. They say, "I am tired," and energy withdraws from their body. They say, "I can't afford this," and providence closes the door of supply. They say, "Nothing ever works for me," and life obediently echoes, "So be it." Words are not opinions. They are commands given to the subconscious, and the subconscious obeys without argument. If you could see the invisible, you would watch each word leave your lips as a living vibration, a small ray of energy carrying form and color into the ether. Words spoken from discord glow with a restless fire. Words of peace radiate blue and gold. They cluster around you, forming what mystics call the aura, the unseen atmosphere of thought that surrounds every being. Your words create this atmosphere. Your atmosphere attracts corresponding experience. This is why two people can walk through the same world and live entirely different realities. Each one walks inside the echo of their own speech. Therefore, be mindful of your words, for you are constantly commanding the elements of your own destiny. Speak not of sickness, but of health, not of lack, but of abundance, not of fear, but of faith. For what you declare, you prepare. You may say, "But if I am ill or afraid, should I lie?" No. You do not lie. You prophesy. You affirm what is divinely true, not what appears to be temporarily real. You speak from the eternal, not from the transient. To say, "I am whole," while the body trembles, is not deceit. It is divine remembrance. The word of truth does not describe conditions. It transforms them. When you speak light into darkness, darkness has no choice but to dissolve. All creation follows this pattern: thought, word, manifestation. The unseen thought is the seed, the spoken word is the planting, the manifest condition is the harvest. If the harvest displeases you, do not curse the field, change the seed. Every word is a vibration. Every vibration has its consequence. The universe listens. It listens not to your prayers alone, but to the tone of your everyday speech. When you speak of failure, you vibrate with it. When you complain, you invoke lack. When you gossip, you scatter energy. When you bless, you multiply good. This is not superstition. It is science of the soul. The great souls of history have always understood this power. Jesus healed with words. "Arise, take up thy bed and walk." He stilled the storm with words. "Peace, be still." He raised the dead with words. "Lazarus, come forth." The prophets commanded mountains to move, and they obeyed. Even science now whispers the same truth. That sound and frequency shape matter, that vibration gives birth to form. Yet long before laboratories measured resonance, the mystics declared, "Man becomes what he says within himself." How then shall you speak? Let your words be rivers of blessing. Let them build, not break. Let them lift, not wound. Speak only from the vibration you wish to live in. When emotion clouds your heart, stay quiet until peace restores its voice. When fear tempts you, affirm faith until peace settles. When doubt whispers, Speak truth until its voice is gone. If you stumble, correct yourself gently. Say, "That was an error of the tongue, but I stand again in the light of truth." Even this small correction restores harmony to your field. Each morning, consecrate your words. Before you speak to the world, speak first to the divine within and say, "Let my mouth utter only that which uplifts and heals. Let my speech be aligned with wisdom and love. Let every word I speak carry light." Then move through the day as a creator, not a reactor. You will notice something subtle. People begin to change around you. Conflicts dissolve before they are born. Your home feels quieter, your work more fluid, your body lighter, for the words you speak have purified the atmosphere of your life. There will come a moment, quiet but unmistakable, when you realize that you are no longer a victim of language but a master of vibration. You will speak little, but each word will carry weight. Even your silence will have power, for it will hum with the tone of divine authority. Then, and only then, will you understand the true meaning of creation, not as a miracle granted to a few, but as the birthright of every awakened soul. You are the Word made flesh, a fragment of the original vibration sent to remember the language of light. When your speech aligns with your soul, reality obeys. So guard your tongue as you would a sacred flame. Speak beauty, and beauty will become your world. Speak truth, and the truth will set you free. Speak love, and the universe will echo it back 10,000-fold. Now that your words are purified and your voice aligned with divine energy, the next revelation arises naturally. For when the word is in harmony with the will, life itself begins to rearrange around that vibration. Chapter 7. Divine Adjustment. There is a hidden harmony that governs all things. Every leaf that falls, every wave that rises, every breath you take moves under the same invisible law, divine adjustment. It is the law of perfect balance, the silent intelligence that corrects every distortion, the sacred geometry of life realigning itself to the original design. When the mind resists, life feels like chaos. When the heart trusts, the same life becomes a symphony. For nothing is ever out of place. It is only our perception that has stepped out of tune. The truth is this: everything that happens to you, everything that has ever happened, has occurred not to punish you, but to adjust you, to bring you into closer alignment with your true nature. The storms, the delays, the losses, the detours, they are not obstacles, they are corrections. Each one is an instrument in the orchestra of your becoming. Each event is an invitation to return to the rhythm of divine order. There are no accidents in the life of the soul. There is only education, the gradual revelation of the infinite within the finite. When you look back at the chapters of your life, you may see confusion, contradiction, pain. But one day, perhaps not now, you will see the pattern. You will understand why doors closed, why people left, why silence fell where you begged for answers. You will see that every removal was protection, every delay was preparation, every heartbreak was refinement. The divine never subtracts without intention. When something is taken, it is only to make room for what is meant to stay. To trust this is to live in peace even amid apparent disorder. It is to say with quiet conviction, "This too is for my good. This too is part of the adjustment." Divine adjustment works like the tide, softly, steadily, irresistibly. You cannot stop it. You can only resist it or cooperate with it. When you resist, the current feels like punishment. When you cooperate, the same current becomes grace. You will know you are being adjusted when life begins to rearrange itself. In ways you did not plan. Perhaps you will lose something you valued. Perhaps you will be moved from a place you thought you belonged. Perhaps the path you were walking will end abruptly, and the human mind will protest, "This should not be happening." But the soul will whisper, "Be still. You are being adjusted." To live under divine adjustment is to stop fighting with appearances. It is to surrender your judgment of what is good or bad, and to trust that the infinite cannot make mistakes. It knows what it is doing, even when you do not. When you align with this awareness, you move into a state of spiritual ease. You stop asking that, why is this happening to me, Ardes, and begin to ask, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in consciousness turns suffering into instruction, pain into revelation, and confusion into faith. The universe does not work against you, it works through you. It cannot be hostile to its own expression. Your life is not a test, it is a translation. Spirit translating itself into matter through your choices, your lessons, your growth. When you fall out of alignment with the rhythm of truth, the divine law gently nudges you back. If you ignore the nudge, it becomes a storm. But the purpose of both is the same: adjustment. You are being guided into coherence with love, even when it feels like loss. You are being restored to harmony, even when the melody sounds strange to your ears. This law is impersonal. It favors no one, yet it blesses all who cooperate with it. It is exact, mathematical, merciful. Just as gravity keeps the planets in orbit, divine adjustment keeps your soul within the orbit of its destiny. It is the reason you can never truly miss your purpose. Even your detours are recalculations toward the same destination. Every wrong turn is rewritten by providence. What seems delayed is not denied. It is being realigned. You are always being led home. Sometimes through joy, sometimes through fire, but always through love. Let this realization comfort you. You are never outside the reach of the divine. You cannot wander far enough to escape adjustment. Even your errors are used for your awakening. Even your resistance becomes part of the teaching. The law wastes nothing. It transforms every fragment of experience into the material of enlightenment. Every fall becomes fertilizer for new growth. Every tear becomes water for a higher seed. The moment you stop resisting life, you can feel it. The soft hands of providence rearranging your world with precision and care. You will know when you are adjusted. There is a peace that follows. Not the fragile peace of circumstance, but the deep peace of understanding. You will notice synchronicities, signs, effortless unfoldings. You will move through days as if guided by invisible currents. You will feel that nothing needs to be forced anymore. The struggle dissolves, and what remains is serenity. When the ego asks, "What should I do?" the spirit replies, "Trust and be still." And from that stillness, right action arises naturally. That is divine adjustment in motion, effortless harmony born from inner alignment. Chapter 8. Love, Life and Light. There comes a point upon the spiritual path when all striving, all analysis, all doctrines fall away, and only one truth remains: that the essence of all things is love. Not the fragile love of emotion, but the cosmic vibration that binds atom to atom, soul to soul, and star to star. It is the very heartbeat of existence, the pulse of the infinite that sustains creation. To know this, love is to know God, for love, life, and light are not three. They are one. They are the trinity of being that moves within all forms, forever expressing, forever renewing, forever returning to itself. Love is the law of unity. It draws all things together, transcending boundaries, dissolving separation. It is the invisible gravity of spirit that holds universes in harmony. Where there is love, there is order. Where love departs, chaos follows. Love does not need to be deserved. It simply is. It does not choose one and reject another. It shines on all as sunlight upon the sea. The wise do not seek love. They become love. And in becoming, they discover that love was never absent. When the heart opens, the world softens. You see divinity everywhere. In faces, in pain, in silence, in imperfection, you cease trying to fix life and begin to bless it. Every encounter becomes a mirror reflecting the one back to itself. Life is love in motion. It is the eternal expression of that divine affection. Every breath, every heartbeat, every pulse of vitality is the infinite declaring, "I am." To live in harmony with life is to respect its rhythm, to act, rest, speak, and create. In the awareness that you are not separate from the source of vitality, you are the instrument through which life expresses its endless creativity. When you resist life, you feel fatigue. When you flow with it, you feel energy without effort. When you identify with fear, you wither. When you identify with the eternal, you rise. Life does not punish, it renews. It does not condemn, it corrects. It does not end, it transforms. Birth and death are but two halves of the same heartbeat. The soul never ceases to live. It only changes garments of experience. To fear death is to misunderstand life, for life cannot die, it can only expand. Light is the mind of love, the illumination that reveals truth to the soul. It shines through understanding, through intuition, through the stillness of the awakened heart. To walk in light is to live in clarity. It is to see things not as they appear, but as they truly are. Expressions of the same infinite consciousness. The light does not judge, it reveals. It does not condemn darkness, it transforms it. And every time you choose truth over illusion, peace over fear, compassion over resentment, you become a beam of that light shining through the veil of this world. Love, life, and light. These are not ideas to study, but states of being to embody. They are the natural fruits of divine adjustment. For when you cease resisting the flow of existence, love begins to radiate effortlessly, life begins to renew itself without strain, and light begins to illumine all confusion. You do not create these powers, you simply remember them. They have been with you from the beginning. They are what you truly are. You are love, infinite and impartial. You are life, immortal and free. You are light, conscious and eternal. To realize this is to awaken completely. Many seek miracles, but this is the greatest miracle of all, to discover that what you sought outside has always lived within. When you love without condition, you heal. When you live in faith, you prosper. When you see with light, you understand. There is no need to manipulate the world, simply radiate. Your vibration will do the rest. For love is magnetic, life is self-renewing, and light is contagious. Every soul who finds this trinity within becomes a sun in the universe, a silent center around which chaos dissolves and harmony returns. Such souls do not preach. They emanate. Their very presence heals, uplifts, awakens. They become living reminders that the kingdom of heaven is not a place beyond the clouds, but a frequency within the heart. When you reach this understanding, you no longer seek salvation. You express it. You no longer pray for blessings. You become a blessing. You no longer wait for the world to change. You change the vibration of the world by your being. This is mastery without pride, service without effort, union without end. Now listen closely. Beneath these words, beneath all words, there is a stillness. In that stillness dwells the source of all. If you close your eyes and breathe deeply, you can feel it. A radiant current moving through your body, through your thoughts, through the very space around you. That current is love. That current is life. That current is light. It is God in motion, and you are part of that motion. So live gently, speak truthfully, love boldly, and walk as one who knows that eternity flows through their veins. Remember this: you are not a wanderer lost in a cold universe. You are the universe awakening to itself through a human form. You are the child of the infinite, a ray of the eternal sun sent to illuminate the world through your own consciousness. And when you remember this, the adjustment is complete. The current of the divine carries you effortlessly into perfect harmony with all that is. This is the stream of blessedness. This is divine adjustment. This is the eternal law fulfilled. Epilogue: Through Faith to Freedom. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when striving ends, when questions fall silent, when the heart, weary from its long search for answers, finally rests in the knowing that everything has always been as it should. This is the moment of faith, not belief but certainty. It is the silent conviction that beneath every movement of life beats the pulse of an infinite intelligence, whose only purpose is to guide creation into harmony. Faith is not blind. It is the highest form of sight. It sees through appearances into essence. It knows that beyond every seeming loss lies a gift, beyond every ending a new beginning, beyond every shadow a hidden light. Faith is the language of the soul, a wordless trust in the unseen rhythm of the divine. It is not something we acquire. It is something we remember. It was written into our being before we took our first breath. Through faith, the soul begins to see that there was never anything to fear. Life, in all its complexity, is not a battle to win, but a masterpiece to behold. Every event, every person, every circumstance was never random. It was a note in the great symphony of your becoming. To live in faith is to rise above the illusion of control, and to enter the current of grace that has always been carrying you. It is to understand that freedom is not the power to manipulate life, but the peace that comes when you trust its perfection. For the human will says, "I will find a way." But the divine will whispers, "You are the way." There was a time when you prayed to be saved. Now, in faith, you understand, Ma. You were never lost. You were only learning how to remember your origin. Faith reveals that God has never been apart from you. He was the breath within your doubt, the strength beneath your pain, the silence inside your confusion. He was there in the stillness between your words, waiting for the noise of fear to quiet, so that his voice could be heard. And now that it is heard, you no longer beg for miracles. You become one. Your presence itself becomes a blessing. Your peace becomes a teaching. Your very being becomes prayer. Freedom follows faith as dawn follows the longest night. Not the fragile freedom of rebellion, but the radiant freedom of realization. It is the liberation that comes when you no longer live from reaction, but from revelation, when you no longer try to bend the universe to your will, but allow the infinite to live through you with perfect ease. Freedom is the natural state of the soul. It is not granted by governments, nor taken by circumstances. It is not given by success or security. Freedom begins the moment you realize that nothing external has ever held power over your spirit. You are free because you are eternal. You are free because you are one with the source. You are free because the life that moves within you is the same life that keeps the stars in their place. Through faith, you stop fighting the current. Through freedom, you begin to float upon it. Not in passivity, but in power. You no longer fear the unknown, for you have realized that the unknown is God, forever revealing himself through the mystery of your becoming. Your only work now is remembrance. To keep your heart aligned with the stream, to keep your words rooted in love, and to walk gently, knowing that every step you take is upon holy ground. The river of life no longer drags you, it carries you, and as you flow with it, you feel the rhythm of the divine pulse through your veins. This is freedom, not escape from the world, but unity with its sacred design. Look back for a moment. All that you feared has become wisdom. All that you lost has returned as light. Every trial, every tear, every silence was not a punishment, it was purification. The shell of the old self has broken, and from within it, the eternal has emerged. You are no longer a seeker. You are the sought. You are no longer chasing truth. You are the truth remembering itself. Through faith you have entered rest. Through freedom you have entered the kingdom. Not a kingdom above the clouds, but one that begins within. In the still chamber of the heart, where love, life, and light meet as one eternal flame. And so, beloved soul, walk now as one who knows. Speak gently, love deeply, forgive quickly, see through the veil of appearances, and recognize the divine at play in all things. You need not force blessings anymore. You need only to stay aligned, for the stream of blessedness carries those who remember who they are. Let go of striving. Let go of worry. Let go of the need to understand. The infinite understands for you. Rest in that. Trust in that. Live from that. This is the final secret. You were never meant to reach heaven. You were meant to realize it, for heaven is not a destination, but a vibration. And you have found it now, within the silence that listens beneath these words. Go then, in faith, in freedom, in light. And wherever you walk, may the world remember its own divinity by the peace that follows you.